Hey guys, today we're going to look at the new best champions in each role if all you care about is winning. Like, loads of champions are really good at the moment, but there are definitely some that stand out, and that's kind of what this video is for. As always, there is a list of champions and timestamps in the description if you just want to see what I'm going to say or you want to skip to a particular role, but let's get into AD carry first. The best AD at the moment for me is going to be Twitch. I think he's back to the top pretty much because everybody else has got nerfed recently except him. He's always had a crazy win rate late game, and that is what really makes him like show up on stat websites as #1 every single patch. Sometimes you are gonna get pummeled early game and you're just kind of gonna lose. You'll think back to this video and unsub next time you see my videos, but just remember he is OP late game, not early. Some people are legit running Dustblade first though, but in my opinion triple crit with Infinity Edge first is insane teamfight damage, or Blade the Ring King first is awesome for earlier fights or finding people alone. He's one of the highest damage output AD carries you can play. You can stealth to start fights, so you avoid a lot of damage, you have high range, and you basically take over a game if it goes late. For number 2, the farm assist god is back. If you cannot afford the new farm simulator on Steam, then Sivir is only 450 IP. She earns on average almost the highest gold out of any AD, has the highest farm, and close to the highest assists as well. You just press W and the game basically plays itself for you. Like, that's all you do in the lane phase. You push with your W, maybe throw a Q out. It's very hard to play against. It's hard to de-push actually. Like, it turns into PvE. You can't really fight Sivir properly because you're constantly using everything on the minions to not go under tower. In team fights, you're literally going to press R, you're going to run your team in and then press W across everybody. Like, you're really good with tanks as well, helping them engage. The meta has shifted into engage, plus she got a buff, so overall she's just going to be really good. Like, crit is good anyway, your lane matchups aren't too hard, and she's just insane mid game. My one to watch for AD though is going to be Tristan, who could easily fit into one of these top 2 picks for higher ranks. I think she's really good, high damage, and safe to play. At lower ranks, I would put Misfortune in here though. She is a beast, the best you can play by a mile at lower ranks, and that's basically the same every single patch, to be honest. Like, Lethality got a buff recently though and made her better. If we move on to the mid lane, number 1, Twisted Fate. As somebody pointed out in my career video, I actually said he didn't get any changes, but Twisted Fate did get a buff in 7.15 to his move speed, only 5, but still, it actually really worked. Twisted Fate has always been a very reliable pick, right? He's kind of the perfect type of champion to main, really. Like, even when he gets nerfed, he's still going to be semi-strong at least. Like, you can still play him. His damage is really on the high end at the moment though. You can build semi-defensive like Rod of Ages and Zhonya's in his first 3 core items, and you're still going to be able to kill people. Not many champions can build semi-defensive and still kill stuff, and not many champions can roam as well as you either. Like, you're consistent versus most matchups because you don't really play in the lane phase. You're always going to have this really good impact on the map. You can help your team a ton, and actually really good at carrying games himself as well, which is kind of rare to be able to do both. You have this low cooldown stun and really good damage. For our second spot, you could easily have Orianna or Malz here, but I'm pretty bored of talking about them every single video, which means you're probably bored of hearing about it as well. We're going to have 2 different ones. So the AP version is Kassadin, who is in a really good spot at the moment though, definitely top 5 for me. I think you have a really good late game, you are a really good roamer, and your lane matchups aren't as crap right now, which makes it easier to kind of get out of it and scale a bit. The tank meta actually in general is pretty good for Kassadin. Like, they dive in and they distract people, which means you can actually do your job even better than before, like even easier. I think he's probably the most free win champion if you get a lead. Like, he's so easy to just like farm champions and keep growing that gold lead. Zed is going to be the other one here, the AD version of Kassadin, I guess, in a way, but just really strong at the moment, even after Dustblade nerfs. Talon and Zed, I think, are going to be good, while Ghostblade gives 40 out of combat move speed. It's so underrated. If the game starts going badly, they can just roam faster than normal. There's more chance of kills from that, more chance of snowballing, and that's without the new Dustblade damage on top of it. He is really strong in the right hands and definitely a great champion, as long as you are not a boosted monkey when you play him, because otherwise he's going to suck. The one to watch out for is going to be Diana though, who is one of the most underrated low elo champions in the entire game across every single role. I think she's really good at gold and below. She has insanely high damage, and she's very much like a Kali, right? If you let her get level 6, she's going to shove her crescent thing, whatever that weapon is, right up your backside. Now if we move on to the jungle, this is where League of Tanks is actually going to start. The jungle has been completely dominated this patch by tank after tank after tank. If you cannot build Cinderhulk, you are not really going to appear in the top rankings in 7.15. That's basically how it works. Maokai is probably the ultimate tank for now, mainly because of his crowd control and how much he actually has. Every skill has some form of CC on it, which is pretty dumb. He's so tanky anyway, but he also stops you from attacking for a long time with all the crowd control, which means he lasts even longer. Righteous Glory is also a very big deal for him actually. You cannot really escape him, and it lets him get into fights fights without having to flash for it, which was a major weakness that kept him down before the rework. He had to have his flash to be useful. Overall, I think he's the best engaged tank, probably because of how much crowd control he has. Like, it's just so hard not to get hit by at least one of the things flying at you. He also takes forever to die, and you can even do some decent damage. Number 2 is going to be Sejuani for me. Here is a set of Cho'Gath, but it kind of depends on the player. Cho'Gath is more broken if you want a brain AFK champion, or if you can abuse the Stoneplay ultimate damage thing. Sejuani, though, is the ultimate team tank. Better than Cho'Gath, but she doesn't have as much damage as the game goes later, at least. The thing is, she hardly ever dies with her passive plus more defensive items. She doesn't have to build Righteous Glory to get into fights like other tanks. It actually frees up another item slot. Righteous Glory is really good, but it's not a Stoneplate or Thornmail or whatever, if that makes sense. So actually, you're going to last longer with another item. She has a crazy 56% win rate against Lee Sin this patch. He just cannot kill her, but she will kill him eventually. It feels really bad. Even though she's not that mainstream, the reason she's number 2 for me is because you're an amazing team fight jungler, an amazing team pick, to be honest, one of the best pure tanks at staying alive, and has some sick engage and crowd control in her kit. The jungler to watch is going to be a bit different. The surprise pick this patch, actually, who is really good, is Sivir. She's always been a lot like Master Yi, right? Really good at farming, getting gold, which she then uses to carry mid to late game, I guess. But in my opinion, you really want to get a Frozen Mallet. This is what Koreans do all the time, because the slow means you don't have to get the blue smite, you can get the red one instead. It just makes a lot more sense, I think. It's tankier, and it's so much easier to play as well. Moving on to the support role, we're now looking at the League of Ancient Coin, basically. Like, the coin buff spiraled Janna out of control, basically, which is why she's going to be my number 1. She now earns even more gold passively than normal and gets more items. It's at the point where you might actually maybe want to ban her. Like, it sounds really weird, but she's got such a high win rate at every single elo in every single matchup, pretty much. It's kind of at the point where Jannas are even rushing Ardent Sensor before getting any Sightstone or other support items, because they get gold so much faster. She's going to shield for a ton. She has an AoE heal around her. She can cock block like a monster, and Sensor is going to buff the AD carry's damage and healing. If you didn't know, coin gives 25 gold or 15% missing mana. You can spam your shield over and over. You'll never have mana issues. You don't need to get that close to coins at all either to pick these up, and then that changes into 40 gold when you have earned 650 with it. I think she's probably the most broken thing in League at the moment, and that is kind of saying something. Abuse her while you can. Coin is just too strong, and Janna is another level of support when you get a few items. Now for number 2, Taric has seen a massive spike up this patch, and you know why? Honestly, it's because he's actually the male melee version of Janna. It's basically the same build except a few tank items like kind of interchange and stuff. You can go coin if you want, but Targons is more popular, but it's really the job that he does. Janna is amazing at disengaging fights and keeping people alive, and that's exactly what Taric does as well. He's probably a bit more aggressive, or he can go more aggressive, but you have a stun, a shield, a heal, and your ultimate like immunity. It's legit amazing at keeping people alive. It's with tanks especially. Like, it sounds really weird, but I always say this: keeping a tank alive even longer than he's gonna last anyway is the easiest way to win a team fight. I think he's a really good support even at lower ranks. Actually, you can go aggressive, but you're about that kind of team fight impact just like a Janna. The one to watch, I think, who will get better this patch is going to be Soraka, who is like Janna but heals, so obviously she's going to go here. She's great at keeping people alive, and I swear her science is so broken, so I would expect her to get better as the patch goes on, especially at lower ranks where she's kind of just better at keeping bad AD carry players alive. So I've left top lane until last because the meta is kind of all over the place right now. There's not really anything that is broken or free win, I guess, but there are some that stand out in my opinion. Maybe there is a free win champion at lower ranks though. So number 1, the best all-around top laner is going to be Jarvan, who has a steady high win rate across patches and can have a really big impact. Your lane phase is really good. You can roam well as well with your EQ and then ultimate into blow flashes. If you get ahead, your damage will be stupid, but you're also really tanky. To start with, you're just kind of health tanky, right? No resist, but you still last a bit longer in a fight. Then eventually you'll become hard to kill while still being a threat. You're one of the best like carry top laners who's kind of at that point where he fits into the tankier meta, but still does some good damage and can actually carry. For number 2, the low elo one is going to be Nasus. So after this patch, Nasus has become probably the best top laner at gold or below. He's shot right up to the top, and he's actually pretty overpowered. At Plat Plus, which by the way is what most stat websites show by default, he looks really bad, but swap that to low ranks and he's actually number 1. It kind of makes sense because he does this disgusting damage right now, and if you don't shut him down early, he's going to be ridiculous. He is a beast at lower ranks, basically free low actually, scales like a monster, and his new ultimate change where he gets his Q even more is such a huge damage boost with Trinity Force. Number 2 for high elo is going to be Maokai though. So at high elo, there is no real surprise that the super tank here is again for our engage and having a massive frontline. When you're playing with some more game knowledge yourself and people around you should follow up a bit better, tanks that can engage become like game changers. I think Maokai is honestly gross at plat and above. He has a really good win rate and consistently good at impact, whether it's early because his crowd control lets people gank for him, or later because his his crowd control keeps him and his team alive, and it sets up a lot of plays. As we said before, as you can probably tell, he just has a stupid amount of crowd control packed into one champion who also takes forever to die. It's kind of like the new Zac now. He got destroyed by nerfs. I think Singed is actually really strong, but he's never really that popular, so he's going to be my one to watch. Probably a case of when you do run into him this patch, you'd kind of wish you hadn't. He doesn't really get talked about that much. He isn't really mainstream either, but even after some nerfs, he's actually really good. So that wraps up the best champions for this patch. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching, but for now, I'll leave you with the robots.